stop getting close to my husband. He is mine and mine alone.
Your husband is mine, and there's nothing you will do about it.
Yeah. Let's go have dinner with the family.
The war between SEOUL and Nyla has just begun. It's no longer about his power, but about a different thing altogether. And Jae-min is about to be caught in the crossfire. If you missed the previous episode, go back and watch it to understand how the whole story began. But if you have watched the first episode, then stick to the end of this story to find out what really happened. The twist is something you have never seen before. Please support us by clicking the subscribe button and liking this video. Back to the story. Inside the car, there was silence. Mr. Ko drove without speaking. Seo-young finally turned her head. "You embarrass me today." Jae-min replied calmly, "No, I clarified a boundary." She laughed once, sharp, amused. "A boundary? You don't have those anymore." He stared out the window. She leaned closer. "You forgot what you signed." His jaw tightened. "I remember every word." "And still, you moved?" That half-step replayed in her mind. Is he in love with her? Back at Arcadia Tower, Nyla stood near the glass doors, watching the black car disappear. Employees avoided her eyes. Some looked afraid for her. Some looked angry, while some looked relieved. She picked up her bag slowly. Mrs. Han passed by and whispered, "You should prepare." Nyla asked quietly, "For what?" Mrs. Han did not stop walking. For being blamed. Nyla stood still. So this was how it worked. No warning, just consequences. As Nyla exited the building, her phone buzzed. It was a message. "Do not misunderstand today. Distance keeps you alive." She knew it was Jae-min. She typed back, "Distance doesn't stop people who want control." She slipped her phone into her pocket. Her face stayed calm. But inside, something hardened. At a private restaurant, Seo-young sat across from Jae-min. She poured tea. "You will remove her from any strategic meetings." Jae-min said nothing. "You will end her contract after this quarter." Still nothing. "You will remember who protects this empire." Finally, he spoke. "She is good at her job." Seo-young set the cup down slowly. "I didn't ask if she was good." She leaned forward. "I asked if you were obedient." The word hung heavy. It sounded exactly like ownership. That night, Nyla sat in her apartment, laptop open. She replayed everything. The smile, the warning, the half-step, the silence afterward. She searched one phrase. Huang family internal scandals. Most results were erased, but one archive forum post remained. People close to her don't stay long. Nyla closed the laptop. She whispered, "So this isn't about love." It was about control, and she was now standing inside it. In his penthouse, Jae-min loosened his tie. He stared at his reflection, feeling controlled. His phone buzzed again. "Seo-young, remember who saved you." He closed his eyes. Years ago, that marriage had protected Arcadia. But now, it was suffocating it. And Nyla? She wasn't the danger. She was the mirror. The next morning, an internal notice circulated. Strategic team restructuring pending. Nyla read it once, then smiled faintly. "So this is the move," she said. She closed her laptop and stood. If they were pushing her out quietly, they underestimated her. The executive floor lights turned on early. Behind closed glass walls, seats filled one by one. Nyla was not on the list. She noticed immediately. Her calendar showed. Strategic alignment meeting canceled, but she could see them through the glass. All of them, including Jae-min. He didn't look at her desk. Not once. And that hurt more than being excluded. At 9:17 a.m., Nyla received a call. "Miss Carter, please come to HR." No reason given. As she stood, several co-workers looked away. One whispered, "It's starting." Nyla walked calmly. Her steps echoed. This building loved silence when it destroyed people. Inside the HR office, Mrs. Han sat stiffly. Another man sat beside her, unfamiliar, cold. Mrs. Han spoke carefully. "There are concerns about cultural alignment." Nyla folded her hands. "Define concern." The man added, "Your presence has drawn attention." Nyla looked at him. My work has drawn results. He ignored that. This company values stability. Nyla nodded slowly. So does fear. Mrs. Hahn flinched. The man slid a document forward. Temporary reassignment is being considered. Temporary. A lie wrapped in politeness. Mid-meeting, Jae-min's phone vibrated. A message from Mr. Ko. HR has initiated a removal protocol. Jae-min's pen froze. He looked up sharply. Seo-young sat across the table, calm. She met his eyes and smiled. Jae-min stood suddenly. I need a moment. A director protested. Seo-young said, let him. She watched him leave. She enjoyed this part. Jae-min moved fast. He reached HR just as Nyla stepped out. Their eyes met. He spoke low. They shouldn't be doing this. Nyla answered calmly. But they are. He clenched his jaw. This wasn't agreed. She tilted her head. You mean you didn't approve of it? That question hurt, because the truth was unclear. They stood too close now, dangerously close. Jae-min lowered his voice. You should stay quiet. Let me handle it. Nyla shook her head slowly. That's what people say before someone disappears. He exhaled sharply. I am trying to protect you. Her voice softened, but didn't bend. From who? Your wife. The word hung heavy. He didn't answer. From a glass wall above, Seo-young saw them, being close. She turned to a director. Accelerate the decision. The director hesitated. Madam. She cut him off. I don't share what I own. Back at her desk, Nyla packed nothing. She opened her laptop. Copied files. Emails. Evidence of her work. And evidence of pressure. She whispered, if they want me gone, they'll have to explain why. Jae-min entered her office without knocking. This had never happened. He said quietly, do not leave today. Nyla met his eyes, then stopped them. That was the limit of his power, and they both felt it. As Jae-min left, Nyla's phone buzzed. A message with one sentence. You were warned. She didn't need a name. She already knew. That evening, Nyla stood by the window of her apartment again. City lights flickered. Her phone sat silent. She whispered, so this is how empires crush people. But she wasn't crushed. She was awake. And tomorrow? Tomorrow she will stop playing defense. Morning came quietly. Nyla arrived at Arcadia Tower early as usual. But something had changed. Her access card beeped once. Then flash red. She tried again. Red. The security guard avoided her eyes. I'm sorry, Miss Carter. Temporary restriction. Temporary? Nyla nodded slowly and stepped back. So this was Seo-young's answer. People passed her. Some pretended not to see. Some looked uncomfortable. One whispered, they locked her out already? Nyla held her bag tightly. Not because she was weak, because she refused to break in public. She stepped aside and told herself to stay calm and think clearly. Upstairs, Jae-min was handed a tablet. Security update, an assistant said. He glanced down and froze. Access restriction, Nyla Carter. His chest tightened. He stood up without explanation. Directors stared. Seo-young watched him carefully. Her lips curved slightly. Jae-min reached the lobby fast. He saw her standing near the glass doors. Alone, he said her name quietly. Nyla. She turned. Their eyes met. You didn't know, she said. It wasn't an accusation. It was confirmation. He swallowed. No. They stepped aside. Not touching, but close enough to be dangerous. This is temporary, he said. They said the same thing yesterday, she replied. He looked away. That hurt more than anger. Footsteps echoed. Seo-young appeared behind them. Perfect posture. Perfect smile. Ah, you're still here. She looked at Nyla. Security mistakes happen. Then she looked at Jae-min, especially when people forget their place. Nyla met her eyes calmly. My place is where my contract says. Seo-young smiled wider. And contracts can be ended. Seo-young turned to security. Restore her access. The guard hesitated. She raised one eyebrow. He obeyed immediately. The card beeped green. Seo-young looked at Nyla again. You see? I'm generous. Generous. The word tasted like poison. As Seo-young walked away, she said softly, just loud enough, "Next time, I won't correct a mistake." Nyla understood. This wasn't mercy. It was a warning. Jae-min followed Seo-young a few steps. "This ends," he said quietly. She didn't stop walking. "You think this has begun?" She turned. "You married into permanence." His voice dropped. "I'm married under pressure." Her smile vanished. "Careful," she said. Back at her desk, Nyla sat down slowly. Hands steady. Face calm. Inside of her was burning. She opened her laptop and started working. Then she whispered, "You don't remove someone like me quietly." She wasn't leaving. Not yet. That night, Seoul glittered again. But inside Arcadia, lines had been crossed. Warnings had been issued. And silence was no longer safe. The war was now visible. And someone would bleed first. The executive floor felt colder than usual. Nyla sat at the long glass table with branding directors and regional leads. Every chair was filled, but something was missing. The empty seat at the head of the table. Jae-min had not arrived. People whispered softly, "He's late." "She's here." "Is this meeting even allowed?" Nyla straightened her back. She opened her folder. "We'll begin," she said calmly. Some looked surprised. Some looked offended. But no one stopped her. She stood and spoke clearly. Arcadia is losing narrative control. The public doesn't trust silence anymore. A senior director frowned. "That is not your authority." Nyla met his eyes. "It's my responsibility." She changed the slide. A new headline appeared. "Transparency builds luxury trust." The room grew quiet. Nyla continued. "We shift focus. Controlled transparency. Human leadership." A man scoffed. "You want the CEO to appear human?" She nodded. "Yes." Another snapped. "That's dangerous." Nyla answered calmly. "So is fear." Silence followed. Behind the glass wall, Jae-min stood quietly. He had arrived early. He listened, watched. This was not recklessness. This was intelligence. And courage. Two things Arcadia rarely rewarded. In a separate office, Seo-young watched the same meeting on a secure feed. Her expression remained calm, but her fingers tightened around her teacup. "She's ambitious," she said softly. "Ambition must be corrected." The director stood slowly. Some nodded at Nyla. Some avoided her eyes. No applause, no praise. But something had shifted. Nyla packed her files. She felt eyes on her. As she stepped into the hallway, Jae-min spoke. "That was reckless." She turned. So was silence. They stood close, but not too close. Walls had ears. "You're making enemies," he said. She replied, "I already have them." His voice lowered. "You don't know how this family works." She answered quietly, "Then tell me." He looked at her, really looked. Then he said, "Once they decide your problem, they erase you." Her jaw tightened. "Then you should have warned me before hiring me." His eyes darkened. "I tried." That afternoon, a company-wide email arrived. Subject: Organizational Realignment. Nyla opened it. Her role was still listed, but underneath, Temporary Oversight assigned to Hwang's Strategic Advisory. Oversight: Seo-young. The message was clear. Nyla leaned back in her chair. She laughed once. Soft, disbelieving. "So this is how she plans to watch me." Across the building, Seo-young looked out over Seoul. "She thinks she's strong," she said to herself. "But strength without protection is suicide." Two women, one man, one empire. And the war had officially begun. The next morning felt heavier. Nyla walked into Arcadia Tower, knowing she was being watched. Two unfamiliar staff members stood near her department. They didn't speak. They didn't smile. They just observed. Seo-young sat in a private executive suite that overlooked the Han River. Nyla was summoned there. The office smelled expensive. Seo-young gestured to a chair. "Sit." Nyla did. No fear in her posture, and that annoyed SEOUL. SEOUL spoke calmly. You will submit all campaigns to my team before release. Nyla nodded. You will avoid unnecessary media presence. Nyla nodded again. You will not speak to my husband unless work requires it. That one landed. Nyla looked up. Then please define work. SEOUL smiled thinly. I decide. Silence filled the room. Nyla broke it gently. You're afraid. SEOUL's smile froze. Of what? Nyla answered. Of influence you can't control. SEOUL stood slowly. You mistake tolerance for weakness. She leaned closer. And I do not lose. The door opened. Jae-min entered. SEOUL didn't turn. You're late, she said. I was working, he replied. He looked at Nyla, then back at SEOUL. This oversight ends. SEOUL turned sharply. No, it doesn't. They faced each other. Husband and wife. But not partners. You don't own Arcadia, Jae-min said. SEOUL replied calmly. My family owns you. The room went cold. Nyla stood slowly. I'll excuse myself. SEOUL smiled. Good choice. But Jae-min didn't look away from his wife. Back at her desk, Nyla closed her laptop. She stared at the city. She whispered, I won't be managed into silence. If they wanted her gone, they'd have to pay for it. Mr. Ko appeared beside her desk again, his voice lower this time. She's testing how far you'll bend. Nyla asked quietly, and if I don't? He answered, then she'll test how far you'll break. That night, Jae-min stood alone in his office. Phone pressed his ear. Yes, he said. No, I understand. Then, quietly, don't touch her. A pause. Then the voice on the other end laughed. Nyla left the building late. She felt eyes follow her. Above her, the Arcadia logo glowed bright. She looked up and whispered, You can't scare someone who already survived worse. Inside the building, SEOUL watched from the window. She doesn't know it yet, she said softly. But this city eats women like her alive. The war had moved past warnings. Now it was personal. The invitation arrived before noon. Gold lettering. Heavy paper. No sender name. Arcadia Foundation Gala. Tonight. Nyla read it twice. This was not routine. This was exposure. She walked straight to Jae-min's office. He was standing by the window when she entered. You shouldn't attend, he said before she spoke. Nyla held up the invitation. She wants me there. Yes, he replied. And she wants you to be visible. Nyla asked calmly, Why invite me if she wants me erased? Jae-min turned. Because erasing someone publicly requires proof they exist. They stood there. You can say no, he added quietly. Nyla shook her head. If I disappear, she wins. His jaw tightened. And if you stay, she escalates. Nyla met his eyes. Then led her. Across the city, SEOUL stood in front of a mirror. Stylist adjusted her gown. Jewels rested against her throat like armor. She'll come, SEOUL said calmly. A woman beside her asked, And if she embarrasses you? SEOUL smiled. She won't get the chance. The ballroom shimmered. Crystal lights. Black suits. Whispers wrapped in silk. Nyla entered alone. Heads turned immediately. Foreign. Beautiful. Uninvited energy. People smiled politely and judged silently. She's the American. The one from the rumor. Why is she here? Nyla felt it. Every stare was a test. She lifted her chin and walked forward. The room shifted when he entered. Power always announced itself. His eyes searched, found her, and held a second too long. SEOUL noticed. SEOUL took the stage. Looking elegant, she smiled warmly. Tonight, we celebrate leadership and unity. Then her eyes found Nyla, and we welcome new talent. She gestured, Miss Nyla Carter, the marketing lead. Applause followed, polite but calculated. Nyla walked forward. She took the microphone, hands steady and her voice calm. I came to SEOUL to work, she said, to build something honest. Murmurs rippled. I didn't come to replace anyone. or threaten anyone. She paused. But I won't shrink to make others comfortable. The room froze. Seo-young's smile tightened. Jae-min watched, heart pounding. This was no longer subtle. This was war under chandeliers. Seo-young clapped first. Well spoken, she said. And in that moment, Nyla knew this night would cost her something. The applause faded, but the tension stayed. People smiled at Nyla as she stepped away from the stage. Not warm smiles. Careful ones. The kind that measured danger. She felt in her chest. She had crossed a line, and everyone knew it. Seo-young leaned toward a man beside her. She didn't raise her voice. Begin the background check. The man nodded. No questions. No hesitation. This was routine for her. Near the balcony doors, Jae-min stopped Seo-young. That was unnecessary, he said quietly. Seo-young sipped her drink. She spoke publicly. She defended herself. Seo-young finally looked at him. And you watched. That landed hard. You're losing control, she added softly. His voice dropped. No, I'm finding it. Her eyes sharpened. Nyla stood near the hallway leading to the restrooms. Two women passed behind her. She's brave, one whispered. Or stupid, the other replied. She doesn't know who she's standing against. Nyla closed her eyes briefly. She knew. She just refused to kneel. A man in a dark suit stepped in front of her. Miss Carter? Yes. I'm with compliance. That word again. Please follow me. Her stomach tightened. The room was small, quiet, too clean. The man closed the door. This is not official, he said. Then why am I here? He hesitated. Someone requested clarification. Nyla crossed her arms. About what? Your pass. He flipped open a file. Why did you leave your last position in the U.S.? Nyla answered calmly. Budget restructuring. Any legal issues? No. Any personal relationships that could compromise leadership? Nyla paused. No. The man studied her, as if looking for cracks. The door opened suddenly. Jae-min stood there. Cold. This ends now, he said. The man stiffened. Sir, I was instructed. I don't care, Jae-min replied. Leave. The man left immediately. The door closed. Silence. Jae-min spoke first. She's digging. Nyla nodded. I expected that. He looked at her. Why didn't you walk away tonight? Nyla answered honestly. Because once you start hiding, you never stop. His jaw tightened. That courage will cost you. She met his eyes. It already has. Outside, the gala continued. Music played. Laughter echoed. But in that small room, something shifted. This was no longer about rumors. It was about power, and who was willing to burn for it. The morning news didn't mention Nyla. That was worse. No leaks, no articles, no whispers online. Silence meant preparation. Nyla knew at the moment she stepped into the building. People were polite. At 9:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. Miss Carter, HR would like a brief meeting. Brief. She stood up calmly, picked up her notebook, and walked in like someone with nothing to hide. The HR room was quiet. Mrs. Han sat across from her. Between them sat a thin folder that was open. Inside were printed pages. Old emails, employment records, a resignation letter. Mrs. Han spoke softly. These were sent to us anonymously. Nyla looked down. Her breath caught. She recognized the letter. Mrs. Han continued. You didn't leave your last job because of budget restructuring. Nyla didn't deny it. You were asked to resign. Nyla nodded slowly. Yes. Why? Nyla answered calmly. Because I refuse to run a campaign that lied consumers. Mrs. Han studied her. And they labeled you difficult. Nyla smiled faintly. They labeled me honest. Mrs. Han closed the file. This information was requested by Huang's strategic advisory. Of course. Nyla leaned back. So she want me framed as unstable. Mrs. Han hesitated. Or untrustworthy. Nyla nodded. She's smarter than I gave her credit for. Across the building, Jae-min was pulled into a private meeting. They're questioning her credibility, an executive said. Jae-min's eyes darkened. On whose authority? The room went silent. Jae-min found So-young in the executive lounge. You crossed a line, he said coldly. She didn't look up from her tea. I protected our name. You attacked my employee. She smiled slightly. I reminded her where she stands. His voice dropped. You're punishing her for existing. Seo-young finally looked at him. And you're protecting her because you want to escape. That hit. Back at her desk, Nyla opened her email. A draft termination notice sat unread. She closed it. She whispered, if she wants my past, I'll show her my spine. Min Jae appeared beside her desk again. Low voice. She's planning a board review. About you. Nyla asked calmly. When? Soon. Nyla nodded. Good. Min Jae blinked. Good. She smiled. I'm tired of waiting. That night, Jae-min stood alone on his balcony, phone in hand. A message from Seo-young waited. End this, or I will. Across the city, Nyla stared at her laptop, unafraid, unmoving. Two people preparing to fight a system designed to crush them. And one woman was determined to remind them who owned the cage. The email arrived at exactly 7 a.m. Mandatory board review 9 a.m. Nyla stared at the screen. So this was it. No hallway whispers. No quiet erasure. A public trial. She closed her laptop calmly. Nyla stood in her apartment, adjusting her jacket. Neutral colors. Sharp lines. No softness. She looked at her reflection. I won't beg, she said quietly. She grabbed her notebook. The boardroom felt heavier than before. Long table. Frosted glass walls. Faces carved from power and age. Seo-young sat near the center. Perfect posture. Untouchable confidence. Jae-min entered last. His presence silenced the room. Nyla followed. Heads turned. Judgment settled in. An older board member spoke first. Miss Carter, concerns have been raised regarding your professional history. Seo-young folded her hands. Polite, patient but deadly. Nyla nodded once. I'm aware. Another board member leaned forward. You were labeled difficult at your previous firm. Nyla met his eyes. Yes. Why? Because I refused to lie. A murmur spread. Seo-young's lips curved faintly. She has a pattern. Seo-young said calmly. Defiance. Moral superiority. She looked at Nyla. Arcadia requires discipline, not rebellion. Nyla didn't interrupt. She waited. When the room quieted, Nyla stood. She placed her notebook on the table. Arcadia sells luxury, she said clearly. But luxury without trust is empty. She opened a page. Every campaign I've run has increased long-term loyalty, not a short-term illusion. She looked at the board. I don't lie well. That's my flaw. There was silence. Jae-min watched closely, not as a CEO, as a man watching something fragile stand alone. Seo-young noticed his gaze, filed it away. One board member asked quietly, Do you respect Korean corporate culture? Nyla didn't rush. I respect excellence, she said, and cultures that evolve survive. That landed. The board dismissed her, not fired, not cleared, suspended in uncertainty. Nyla walked out with her head high. Seo-young watched her leave. She's dangerous, she said softly. Jae-min said nothing, but his silence chose a side. Nyla sat alone in the quiet lounge outside the boardroom. Glass walls, muted lights. Time here was intentional torture. People passed without meeting her eyes. She checked her phone. No messages, no reassurance. That was the point. A board assistant approached. Miss Carter, Madame Huang would like a word. Privately. Nyla stood. Of course she did. The room Seo-young chose had no windows. Just a long table. 2 chairs. Seo-young gestured. Sit. Nyla did. Seo-young didn't smile this time. You performed well there. Nyla waited. Compliments from predators always came with teeth. I underestimated your composure. Seo-young continued. Let's correct that mistake. So-young slid a folder across the table. Inside, a new contract, a generous severance clause, a non-disclosure agreement. Leave Arcadia, So-young said calmly. Quietly, Nyla looked up. And I will personally recommend you the 3 global firms. Power wrapped in silk. Nyla asked one question. What happens if I stay? So-young leaned back. I continued digging. Publicly this time. You will be labeled unstable, disruptive, difficult. Nyla nodded slowly. You'll destroy my career. So-young corrected her. No, I'll redirect it. Nyla closed the folder. Gently. I won't sign. So-young's eyes sharpened. You don't understand how generous this is. Nyla met her gaze. I understand exactly what it costs. So-young tilted her head. And what's that? My silence. So-young stood. This is your last protection. Nyla stood too. Then remove it. The air went cold. So-young smiled. A smile without warmth. You'll regret this. Nyla replied quietly. So will you. Outside, Jamin waited. He searched her face. Did she offer you an exit? Yes. And I refused. Something in his expression cracked. Relief and admiration. That night, Nyla stood by her apartment window again. Seoul glowed below. She whispered, I chose the hard road. Her phone buzzed. One message. Unknown number. You should have taken the deal. Across the city, So-young poured herself a drink. She thinks this is about work, she said softly. It never was. The game had changed. No more polite battles. Only consequences. The headline dropped before sunrise. Not on a major outlet. A mid-level business blog. The most dangerous kind. Arcadia executive under scrutiny. Questions about foreign hire. Nyla read it slowly. They didn't name her. They didn't need to. By 7:30 a.m., the comments were alive. She doesn't fit Korean leadership culture. Why was she hired so fast? Foreigners bring instability. Is this related to the CEO rumor? Nyla closed the page. This wasn't about facts. Inside the building, panic spread quietly. Phones buzzed. Assistants whispered. Executives avoided eye contact. Nyla walked through it all calmly. She had expected this. What surprised her was how alone it felt. Jamin was pulled into an emergency executive meeting. This leak damages investor confidence, a board member said. Another added, her presence fuels speculation. Jamin sat still, listening. Then he spoke. Say what you mean. We want her to be removed, they said. Jamin stood, slowly, deliberately. No, he said. Head snapped up. This company hired her for competence, he continued. And I will not sacrifice competence to satisfy fear. So-young's jaw tightened. This was public now. Then clarify your priorities, So-young said calmly. She turned to the room. If Nyla Carter stays, the Hwang Group withdraws advisory support, including money, influence, and protection. All gone. The room panicked. Nyla stood outside the glass wall. She hadn't meant to hear, but she did. She stepped back, heart pounding. This wasn't about her job anymore. This was about leverage, and she was the lever. She found Jamin afterward. You can't do this, she said quietly. I won't let you burn your company for me. He looked exhausted. I'm not. He stepped closer. This fire existed before you arrived. She looked at his face. Is she threatening Arcadia or you? His silence answered. Then she said, If I stay, you lose everything. He replied softly, I already lost myself. That night, a second article dropped. This time it was louder and meaner. Power struggled Arcadia. CEO defies wife's family. This time, names were included. Nyla, Jamin, So-young. No more in the shadows, and every choice had a cost. Arcadia Tower woke up under siege. Cameras lined the street outside. Reporters shouted names. Security tightened every entrance. Inside the building, Nyla stepped out of the elevator and felt it immediately. Everyone knew her name now. Her phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Messages, mentions, articles. Some defended her. Most didn't. She's destroying him. She knew what she was doing. Foreign woman break the Korean empire. Nyla turned the phone face down. This wasn't about truth anymore. It was about blame. In the executive suite, Jae-min faced the board again. Angrier this time. You embarrassed us, one man snapped. You chose sentiment over stability, another said. Jae-min's voice stayed calm. No, I chose integrity. Seo-young watched silently. Her eyes were cold and calculating. She stood. This ends today, she said. She looked directly at Jae-min. Choose. The room froze. Her voice cut clean. Her position or our alliance. This was an execution. Nyla stood outside the meeting room again. She didn't need to hear the words. She felt them. This wasn't about punishment. This was about ownership. And she was the excuse. Before the meeting ended, Nyla turned away. She walked straight to HR. No tears. No drama. She asked for one document. A resignation form. The assistant hesitated. You don't have to. Yes, Nyla said calmly. I do. Back at her desk, Nyla wrote slowly. Every word measured. Every sentence honest. I refuse to be the reason an institution collapses, or a man is destroyed for choosing decency. She signed her name, closed the file, and stood. The meeting doors opened. The board began to exit. Jae-min looked up and saw her, holding the envelope. His heart sank. Nyla. She shook her head gently. This is my choice. They stood close. You don't owe me this, he said. She smiled sadly. I owe myself peace. He whispered, this isn't over. She met his eyes. Nyla walked out of Arcadia Tower for the last time. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. She didn't answer. Inside the building, Seo-young watched from above. Satisfied, or so she thought. Jae-min stood alone in his office. Marriage intact. Empire intact. But something essential is gone. Arcadia Tower looked the same. But inside, something had cracked. Employees worked quietly. Meetings ended faster. No one mentioned her name. But everyone felt it. The absence. Jae-min stood in his office alone. Nyla's chair was gone. Her files were removed. Her desk was wiped clean, like she had never existed. He stared at the city below, and for the first time in years, he felt hollow. Seo-young entered without knocking. You handled it correctly, she said. He didn't turn. She resigned. Yes, Seo-young replied calmly. As expected. You destroyed her. Seo-young tilted her head. No, I reminded her of reality. They stood facing each other. You think this is over, he said. Seo-young smiled faintly. It is. He shook his head slowly. You don't understand. Her smile faded. What? You didn't win, he said quietly. You exposed yourself. Across the city, Nyla woke up in her apartment. She sat up slowly. For the first time since arriving in Seoul, she wasn't fighting, and that scared her. She made coffee, stared out the window. Her phone buzzed. Messages from unknown numbers. Recruiters. Journalists. She ignored them all. She whispered to herself, I didn't come here to be chased. I came here to build. Her phone rang again. This time, she answered. Miss Carter. A man said, My name is Daniel Park. I represent an independent investment group. She frowned. How did you get my number? He replied calmly. People notice integrity. Later that day, Nyla sat in a quiet cafe. Daniel Park spoke softly. You embarrassed very powerful people, he said, and impressed others. She raised an eyebrow. You're recruiting me? He nodded, not as an employee, as a partner. That word landed differently. Back at Arcadia, Mr. Ko approached Jae-min quietly. She's been contacted, he said, by investors. Jae-min's jaw tightened. What kind? Mr. Ko hesitated. The kind that don't need permission. That night, Seoul lit up again. Two people stood under the same sky, one trapped in an empire, one finally free but unprotected, and somewhere between them, power was shifting slowly but dangerously. The cafe was almost empty. Daniel Park folded his hands. "We don't operate like Arcadia," he said. "No families, no bloodlines." Nyla listened carefully. "And what do you want from me?" He answered without hesitation. "Truth and courage." She almost laughed. "Those are expensive." He smiled slightly. "So are lies." Daniel slid a tablet toward her. On the screen, founding partner, global brand strategy. Not as an employee, but as a partner. Nyla's chest tightened. "You barely know me." Daniel replied calmly. "We know your reputation, and how you walked away when power demanded silence." Nyla leaned back. "Let me guess. You want to use me against Arcadia." Daniel didn't deny it. "We want to compete." She stared at the screen. "And you think I want revenge?" Daniel met her eyes. "No, I think you want autonomy." That hit closer than revenge ever could. Jamin sat in another strategy meeting. Numbers were solid, projections stable, but something was wrong. No spark, no challenge, no dissent. He glanced at the empty seat again. Still empty. Seo Young stood by the window in her office. Her assistant entered. "There's movement," she said carefully. Seo Young didn't turn. "Explain." "Independent investors are gathering talent, including former Arcadia personnel." Seo Young's fingers tightened. "Names." The assistant hesitated. "Nyla Carter." Jamin's phone buzzed. A message from Mr. Ko. "She's being courted. No name needed." He closed his eyes. Freedom suited her, and that terrified him. Back at the cafe, Nyla looked at Daniel. "If I accept, will you protect me when they come?" Daniel answered honestly. "No." She raised an eyebrow. "We'll stand beside you," he corrected. "But protection comes from the power you build yourself." She nodded slowly. That was fair and real. Nyla didn't sign anything. She stood instead. "Give me 48 hours, she said. Daniel smiled. "That's all we hope for." As she walked away, her phone buzzed. One message from Jamin. "Are you safe?" She stared at it and didn't reply. That night, Seo Young met with her father, a private residence. "She's resurfacing," Seo Young said. Her father's voice was calm. "Then erase her properly." Seo Young nodded. Nyla stood on her balcony again. City lights below, wind cold against her skin. She whispered, "I won't be owned again." Across the city, Jamin stared at the same skyline. Watching the woman, he let go become something dangerous. And somewhere deeper, old money prepared to strike back. Nyla woke up before sunrise. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She whispered, "This time, I build on my own terms." At 9:12 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. "Miss Carter," a man said calmly. "This is Huang Legal." Her body went still. "Yes." "You are requested to stop using any proprietary knowledge obtained at Arcadia." Nyla replied evenly. "I already have." Then, "Good," the man said. "Then this call was only a courtesy." The line went dead. That wasn't a courtesy. At Arcadia, Jamin slammed his office door shut. "They contacted her," he said to Mr. Ko. Mr. Ko nodded. "Yes, officially." Jamin ran a hand through his hair. "She hasn't even signed anything yet." Mr. Ko hesitated. "That's why they're nervous." Seo Young sat across from her father. "He's distracted," she said. Her father replied calmly. "Then exploit it." She nodded once. "And the girl?" Her father didn't hesitate. "Pressure creates mistakes." Seo Young smiled faintly. "She doesn't seem the type." Her father replied. "No one is immune forever." Daniel Park introduced Nyla to two people in a quiet office. A woman from finance, a man from media strategy. Daniel said, "If you say yes, we move fast. If you say no, we walk away clean." Nyla asked them, "Why me?" The woman answered honestly. Because you scare people who shouldn't be scared. The man added, and because you walked away instead of selling out. Nyla absorbed that. She had never been praised for that before. Her phone buzzed. Jimin. She hesitated, then answered, Yes. His voice was low. They're targeting you. She smiled faintly. They always were. I can help, he said. She closed her eyes. Not from where you're standing. That hurt him. She knew it. He asked quietly, Are you building something against us? Nyla answered honestly, I'm building something without you. Silence. Then, be careful, he said. I am, she replied, and ended the call. That evening, a new article appeared. Former Arcadia executive in talks with independent investors. Seo Young stared at the screen. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Her assistant spoke carefully. The narrative isn't turning hostile. Seo Young, clench your jaw. Then turn it. The assistant hesitated. That may require personal exposure. Seo Young's eyes hardened. Then expose. Late that night, Nyla sat alone. Daniel's contract on the table. Her phone is silent. She picked up the pen. Paused. Thought of Atlanta. Of SEOUL. Of every time she had been told to shrink. She signed. She sent one message. To Daniel. I'm in. Then one more. To Jamin. I chose myself. She didn't wait for a reply. Across the city, Seo Young stared at a screen that no longer obeyed her. Jamin stood in an empire that suddenly felt fragile. Nyla stepped into something new. Not protected, but finally free. And freedom, in SEOUL, was the most dangerous position of all. The next morning, Nyla woke to noise. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Not messages, but headlines. Questions rise about Nyla Carter's past. Former colleagues speak out. She sat up slowly. So Seo Young had chosen exposure. Nyla opened the article. Carefully worded. Technically legal. Emotionally violent. They didn't lie. They reframed. She struggled to adapt. She resisted authority. She created internal tension. The oldest trick. Truth rearranged into guilt. Nyla closed the page. Her hands were steady, but her chest was not. Daniel arrived at the office early. They're trying to break you before launch, he said. Nyla nodded. They think I'll retreat. Daniel studied her. Will you? She answered immediately. No. Good. That was the right answer. Inside Arcadia, the boardroom buzzed. Investors called. Partners hesitated. One executive whispered, She's not backing down. Another replied, That's the problem. Jamin sat silent, watching a storm he could no longer control. Seo Young read a new report, then another. Then she frowned. This is enough, she said. Her assistant hesitated. There's one more angle. Seo Young looked up. Speak. Her family. Silence. Seo Young's eyes hardened. Proceed. That was the moment. The line crossed. Nyla's phone rang. Her mother. Nyla, she said gently. Someone called asking about you. Nyla's breath caught. What did they ask? Why you left Korea. If you were unstable. If you were alone. Alone. The word burned. Nyla closed her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. Her mother replied softly. You don't sound wrong to me. That almost broke her. After the call, Nyla locked herself in the restroom. She leaned against the sink, hands shaking. This wasn't business anymore. This was punishment. She whispered, You don't get to touch them. Her reflection stared back, still standing. Mr. Ko told him quietly. They contacted her family. Jamin's face went cold. That was never part of the deal. Mr. Ko replied, There are no deals with dynasties. Jamin turned toward the window. Something inside him snapped. That night, Jamin confronted Seo Young. You cross a line, he said. Seo Young didn't deny it. She needs to feel the consequence. She's not your enemy, he said. Seo Young laughed softly. No, she's your weakness. That word landed like a weapon. Jamin stepped closer. Stop this. Seo Young met his eyes. Or what? Silence. He realized something then. He had no leverage left. Back at the office, Nyla wiped her face. She walked out calmer and focused. She turned to Daniel. Set up a press interview. Daniel blinked. You want to speak? Yes. Publicly. They wanted exposure. She would choose the light. That night, SEOUL buzzed again. Whispers turned to anticipation. A former executive, a silent woman, finally ready to speak. Seo Young watched the city from her window. She's making a mistake, she said. Jae-min stared at his phone, knowing the next move would change everything. And Nyla? She stood in front of a mirror, not scared but ready. Nyla sat in the chair across from the interviewer. Daniel stood off camera. You don't have to answer everything, he said gently. Nyla nodded. I know exactly what I'll answer. Seo Young sat in her private lounge. Screen on. She expected damage control, tears and excuses. She saw none. Nyla's posture was calm, dangerously calm. The interviewer smiled politely. Miss Carter, thank you for joining us. Nyla returned the smile. Thank you for having me. First question, why did you leave Arcadia? Nyla didn't hesitate. Because integrity became inconvenient. The interviewer blinked. Are you saying you were treated unfairly? The interviewer asked. Nyla shook her head. No, I was treated predictably. She leaned forward slightly. When systems feel threatened, they test obedience. Her voice was steady. I don't pass those tests. The interviewer shifted. Reports say your family was contacted during this controversy. Nyla inhaled once. Yes. Would you like to respond? Yes, she said calmly. Leave them out of it. The room went still. If you want to challenge me, she continued, do it to my face, not through my mother. Jae-min watched from his office. Standing. Every word landed heavy. Not because it attacked Arcadia, because it exposed it. The interviewer asked quietly, do you regret coming to SEOUL? Nyla smiled softly. No, that surprised everyone. I regret believing power always listens to reason. But I don't regret standing up here. Seo Young slammed the remote down. Turn it off. Her assistant hesitated. Madam, the response is positive. Seo Young's jaw tightened. Phones lit up across the city. She's brave. She didn't play victim. She's not lying. Even critics softened. The narrative shifted, not in her favor, but in her control. Final question. Do you believe powerful families still control corporate Korea? Nyla looked straight into the camera. Yes. And that's exactly why transparency scares them. She smiled politely. The interviewer exhaled. Thank you for your honesty. Nyla stood. Thank you for letting me speak. Within minutes, Seo Young's phone rang. Then rang again. Board members, partners, allies. Concern had entered their voices. Jae-min picked up his phone. He typed one message, then deleted it. Typed again. We need to talk. Not as enemies. He sent it. For the first time, he didn't care who saw. Nyla walked out into the night. SEOUL felt different. Not friendly, but awake. She checked her phone. One message stood out. From Jae-min. She didn't reply. Seo Young stood alone in her office, watching headlines change tone. She thinks she's won, she whispered. Across the city, Nyla stood under the lights, knowing better. No one wins after speaking the truth. They survive the consequences. And those were just beginning. The morning after the interview felt unreal. Nyla sat at her desk, scrolling slowly. Daniel leaned against the table. They're not attacking yet, he said. That means they're planning. Nyla nodded. I expected that. He studied her. You okay? She answered honestly. I'm steady. Inside Arcadia, an emergency statement was drafted. Jae-min read it twice, then pushed it away. This protects no one, he said. An executive replied. It protects survival. Jae-min didn't answer. Seo Young sat with three older men. One spoke calmly. You let her speak. Seo Young didn't blink. She won't last. Another asked, and if she does? Seo Young paused. Then we changed the battlefield. Nyla's phone rang again. Unknown number. She answered. Miss Carter, a woman said softly. This is Sun Ali. Nyla frowned. I don't. I worked at Arcadia. Years ago. They buried me. Nyla's breath caught. They met in a quiet park. Sana spoke slowly. I was blamed for a product failure that wasn't mine. Nyla listened. I was forced to resign. Quietly. She looked up. Hwang Sil-young signed the order. The name sat heavy. You're not the first, Sana said. You're just the loudest. Mr. Ko handed Jae-min a file. Archive personnel disputes, he said. Jae-min scanned it. He clenched his jaw. This wasn't about Nyla. This was a system. Jae-min's phone buzzed. Sil-young, stop interfering. You're embarrassing yourself. He stared at the message, then typed back. I'm done being quiet. He sent it. Back at the office, Nyla looked at Sana. Would you speak publicly? Sana hesitated. I'm afraid. Nyla nodded. So was I. She didn't push. She waited. That night, Seo-young stood alone again. But this time, across the city, Nyla prepared to reveal a pattern. Jae-min prepared to betray a dynasty. Seo-young prepared to strike back without mercy. Sana sat across from Nyla in the quiet office, hands folded. I lost everything once, she said softly. My job, my confidence, my voice. Nyla didn't interrupt. Sana looked up. I won't lose it again. Nyla nodded. Then we do this carefully. That was the moment, the first crack in the wall. Daniel arrived with 2 journalists. They don't publish without proof, he said. Good. Sana placed documents on the table. Emails, performance reviews, resignation letters. Patterns emerged. Different years. Same language. Same outcome. Women labeled difficult. Careers erased quietly. One name repeated at the bottom of approvals. Hwang Sil-young. One journalist exhaled slowly. This isn't a scandal, he said. It's a system. The other nodded. And systems fall slower, but harder. They looked at Nyla. Are you ready for that? Nyla answered calmly. I already fell once. Inside Arcadia, a senior executive whispered to another. Reporters are asking questions. About what? HR practices. Oversight decisions. The second man stiffened. That reaches upstairs. Seo-young's assistant entered carefully. There's media interest. Investigative. Seo-young didn't look up. About Nyla? The assistant swallowed. No. About us. Seo-young's fingers tightened. That was worse. Jae-min requested access to archive internal records. The request was flagged immediately. Seo-young saw it. She laughed once. Too late, she murmured. Seo-young received a call. Her father's voice was calm but sharp. You let emotion weaken discipline. Seo-young replied evenly. I'm correcting it. He paused. Do not let this touch the board. Seo-young closed her eyes briefly. That was pressure. Late that night, it dropped, all documented. Inside Arcadia, former employees' alleged pattern of silenced women. Seo-young stared at the screen. Phones rang across Seoul. Lawyers woke up. PR teams panicked. Silence cracked. Nyla read the article slowly. Sana sat beside her, shaking. It's out, she whispered. Nyla placed a hand over hers. It started. Across the city, Jae-min stood alone in his office, watching his wife's power finally meet resistance. And Seo-young? She poured herself a drink. For the first time, her hands shook. The Arcadia boardroom was no longer united. 2 sides formed. One side, old money, fear, silence. The other, risk, reputation, survival. An elder board member spoke. This is no longer about one woman. Another replied, it never was. Eyes turned toward Jae-min. For the first time, they waited for him. Seo-young entered late, unapologetic, composed. This ends now, she said. We remove the noise. A board member asked carefully, and if the investigation expands? Seo-young answered coldly, Then we deny. Jae-min stood. No. Every head turned. I've reviewed the files, he said. The patterns are real. Seo-young stared at him. You betray your own family? Jae-min met her gaze. I betray abuse. Silence fell. That word shattered everything. Within hours, an independent audit was announced. Seo-young was placed on leave. Hwang Advisory suspended its involvement. No drama, just loss of control. The most painful punishment. Seo-young packed her office in silence. For the first time, no one stopped her. Nyla stood in her new office. Smaller, simpler, but free. Daniel handed her the update. It's over. Nyla closed her eyes. Not relief. Release. Jae-min requested one meeting. Neutral place. No witnesses. I'm leaving Arcadia, he said quietly. The board will survive without me. Nyla looked at him. And you? I won't survive as who I was. She nodded. That's honest. He looked at her. I won't ask you to wait. She smiled softly and said, good. Months later, Arcadia still stood, but changed. Nyla's firm launched globally, built on transparency. Seo-young disappeared from the headlines. Nyla walks into a private restaurant for a dinner date with Jae-min. Seo-young saw them kissing from her sedan as she was passing. She said, not only did you make a mockery of me in the corporate world, you also took my man from me? She couldn't take it anymore, and she barged in on them. The following morning, the news was everywhere. Seo-young lost in all aspects of life. While Seo-young was in shambles, Nyla was elevating in both aspects in life. Do you think that Seo-young will take up revenge? Or did she deserve what came her way? Tell us in the comments section what you all think. And please don't forget to support us by subscribing to this channel. See you in the next video.